Hey everyone, so I thought I would come out today given that we finally have some sunny weather in the UK again. Thought I'd come out to the terrace given the rare occasion for another long-awaited cigar video. Yes, I have with me a wonderful cigar. This is a Romeo y Julieta cigar, and just chat to you out here in a video that I don't think I've done before. Everything that I've done around cigars has been a bit more informative since a lot of you are new to it, but since we are a little bit more seasoned nowadays, I thought I would just chat to you out here on the terrace like I would usually do with my partner or with an old friend. And you know, that's the best way to enjoy a cigar, which is good company and good conversation. In terms of the topics at hand, I wanted to talk to you about a potentially controversial opinion that I've had brewing in my mind ever since I started smoking cigars, and that is around why I actually prefer smoking cigars over drinking alcohol. Now, I know a lot of you out there will probably cry a little bit of outrage at this point because I know a lot of cigar smokers will pair their cigars with, you guessed it, alcohol, but that's not what I mean by today's video. Actually, I rarely drink much these days anyway. To be honest, the only times I do drink are for special occasions, birthday celebrations, or with a cigar. So the topic of this video instead is around how I actually way prefer doing the smoking of a cigar over having drinks. And over time, I've kind of realized that drinking yields me pretty much little to no upside compared to the benefits that I believe that I gain while smoking cigars. So hopefully if you've got a cigar in hand and you're watching this, grab yours, light it up, and let's get chatting. So now that the cigar is lit, let's dive into the reasons, and I have 6, why I think cigars are better than alcohol. So let's of course start with reason number 1, and that's cigars have fewer health risks than alcohol does. Drinking alcohol, for example, is associated with a broad range of health problems. It's one of the leading causes of death in adults, and that could be in terms of liver disease, high blood pressure, types of cancers, and that's not even just mentioning also just like the mental kind of health conditions that you can also get. On the other hand, if you are a moderate cigar smoker, and the emphasis on the word moderate, you don't get the same types of health risks that you actually see with alcohol. And actually, just for example, a study published in the American Journal of Epidemiology, it states that moderate cigar smokers actually had a lower risk of death from all of those causes that I just mentioned compared to non-smokers. Now, I've mentioned it in a different video around increased risk of oral cancer. That's the most well-known one, especially if you're inhaling deep into your throat and into your lungs. Obviously that's a big no-no, but on the whole, I do believe from medical evidence and also just personal anecdotal evidence of people who drink a lot of alcohol, and obviously you see a lot of people going to, I guess, rehab for alcohol addiction. You don't really see that when it comes to cigars. There's no kind of addictive compounds which would lead to that. So that for me is one of the biggest reasons, health, and also, because there are no addictive elements to a cigar, there's nothing really that compels me to take an excessive amount of cigars to go and smoke several throughout a day. Okay, now on to point number 2, why I prefer smoking cigars over alcohol, and that's because of the social experience and the kind of community building feel that you get. Drinking is definitely one that, okay, you can connect with people, but it's usually like a big night out, which has often consequences that people would like to forget or struggle to remember. And as I've grown older, and obviously we've all been there and done that, so I'm by no means, demonizing people. Obviously the consequences of drinking are less sociable, I feel, and they have dire consequences, even just outside of being totally obnoxious and loud. They also potentially have like dangerous consequences with it, and you just don't kind of get that with cigar smoking. It's very much community building. It's all around having deep conversations, and again, I'm not saying you don't have a nice conversation while you're out in a bar, especially if you're one-on-one, but I do think when you are smoking a cigar, it's usually with very few amounts of people. It's not in somewhere very loud. You're able to talk about really deep and meaningful topics, and I just really like the ability that you're able to sit back and relax and just enjoy each other's company. Whereas I feel with drinking culture, it's very much go, 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 you're doing a bar crawl. I feel like alcohol can therefore create somewhat of an environment where people become just, very loud, obnoxious, and just not necessarily their authentic selves. It's a little bit more dangerous, I feel, when you're going to, on a social occasion with your friends, to have that as a potential risk where you don't remember your actions or you will later regret them. Whereas cigars, on the other hand, they promote a sense of, I guess, camaraderie and friendship. And I like to remember the conversations that I've had, the people that I've met, the experiences that I've shared with them. And that's just something that I feel you just don't get with alcohol. And if you do manage to get it with alcohol, well, after a few drinks, that dynamic is going to massively change. And perhaps the people that you're talking to are also going to change, and not necessarily for the better. Now on to reason number 3. And this is one of my personal favorites, one of the reasons why I really love smoking cigars, and that's reducing stress and anxiety. And then I can resonate with that just now because it's been a long week at work, and while a lot of people, like I mentioned in the previous point, will go and drink alcohol to relax and unwind from a busy week, it can actually increase a lot of stress and anxiety in the long run, especially on its day after symptoms. When, after a night out, you'll definitely feel that in terms of the hangover and also perhaps the deep sense of regret. But whereas on the other hand, I feel like smoking a cigar is actually a great way to do the opposite. It reduces stress, it reduces the anxiety. It's incredibly satisfying as well to puff out a nice big cloud of smoke and just not look at the clock, to be honest. Whereas, with drinks, etc., like I mentioned before, bar crawls, nights out, clubs, there's just too much going on. I feel like this is a nice way to kind of take a step back. And actually what's interesting is that this again is kind of bolstered by a lot of studies, one of them by the Nicotine and Tobacco Research Group. And they mentioned actually that cigar smoking is associated with lower levels of anxiety and depression compared to people who have alcohol consumption. But, I feel like anecdotally, this is also true. You see a lot of people who, yes, they might drink a lot, but are they necessarily happier, especially after the fact, as opposed to in the moment? Actually, my stresses, my challenges in life don't just magically go away. I will have to deal with them next day. Only the next day I'll have a banging hangover, no recollections of what went on, less money as well, and I have to spend the next day or two recovering from a hangover, which I just can't afford to have at the moment. I'd much rather spend that time taking myself away from my phone, away from my laptop, enjoy a cigar, speak to someone, and just recollect my thoughts and approach my challenges with a concrete form of action as opposed to delaying the inevitable. All right, now on to reason number 4, and that is cigars offer a unique sensory experience. Cigars come obviously in a variety of flavors and different aromas, and they provide a unique experience when you smoke it. While some people might have this preconception that all cigars are the same, obviously that is not true. With cigars, you get the creamy to the light body. Oh, now it's moving too fast. Now, I find with people who don't know much cigars, they often think that all cigars are the same and that there is no difference among them. You can barely taste the difference, but obviously I'm here to tell you that that is completely a myth at its best, because you get a wide variety from mild and creamy to bold and complex. There's just so much out there. There's also the different regions as well as different sizes. There is a cigar out there for every taste and every preference. And unlike alcohol, cigar smoking doesn't impair your taste buds or even your sense of smell or your judgment afterwards, as we've covered before. So for those reasons, I feel like I'm truly able to enjoy my experience, not just smoking, but the whole experience that I have in the right here and right now compared to alcohol. Now let's talk about reason number 5, and that is cigars are undoubtedly a form of art. From the tobacco farming to the rolling process, even before that, all the growing, etc., and the cultivation, there is a lot of work that goes into creating just one great cigar. And it's a very, very skilled job at that as well with the cigar artisans. Learned that myself when visiting Cuba. Whereas with alcohol, okay, you can get some bespoke, but ultimately the batches are mass produced for the most part, and you can lose a lot of that kind of artisanal and kind of bespoke feel that you get with a cigar. Whereas unlike alcohol, which can often be mass produced and lack individuality, each cigar is a unique work of art. You will never get two cigars that are the same. Obviously, you can get machine rolled cigars. I wouldn't recommend those. I tried smoking them myself and it did not taste very good, let's just put it that way. But I feel like each cigar is unique, it has its own story. I just love that. Something also worth mentioning, obviously, is that cigars have a rich history and culture, and this dates back centuries. And obviously, you can say the same about alcohol too. And you know, the fact that different regions have their own unique styles and flavors. But with cigars, they have their own stories and traditions behind them. And smoking a cigar is not just about enjoying a taste, but also about experiencing a piece of history and culture, where in contrast, I feel like alcohol can sometimes feel a bit generic and it has very little cultural significance, especially if you go to a bar where you just get the very standard, for example, cocktails or something out of just random bottle somewhere. It's not really made with that kind of love and attention that a cigar is made. And that's just personally something that I really look forward to when I'm smoking a cigar, that I'm also smoking a bit of history, as corny as that sounds. Now on to my final reason number 6, and that is cigars can be enjoyed without the negative consequences of impaired judgment or motor skills. And I've alluded to this before, but I'll say it again. You don't know what the hell's going on if you had too much, and by that point it's a bit too late. You've gone past the point of no return, to be honest. Whereas smoking a cigar, however, does not have the same effect. In fact, according to a study published in the Journal of Addictive Diseases, cigar smoking is actually associated with a lower risk of car accidents compared to, obviously, alcohol consumption. And let's be honest, being drunk is also not a great and classy look at the best of times, and that's just obviously not a problem that you have when smoking a cigar. The worst that you could have if you didn't really know what you were doing is a really, really sore throat. But to be honest, everybody who smokes cigars should know the etiquette, should know the process, and if you don't, there are a wealth of resources out there for you, but you just don't get the same kind of impairment risks than you do with drinking alcohol. Those are all of my reasons why I prefer smoking cigars over drinking alcohol. And obviously overall, while both cigars and alcohol can be enjoyed in moderation, I personally believe that cigars offer a more well-rounded experience overall and a much more enjoyable one for the long term. And from the taste and the aroma to the social and cultural aspects of cigars, they provide a unique and fully satisfying experience that honestly cannot be replicated by alcohol. And again, this is just my personal opinion. Everybody has their unique preferences, and obviously I am not knocking the fact that, you know, it would be nice to have a wonderful cigar with a lovely drink pairing. Of course, you can have it in moderation, but I personally don't see any kind of long-term health benefits to doing it often compared to if I was just to have the odd cigar here and there. And I feel like cigars offer that unique and enjoyable experience without the negative health consequences and mental consequences that excessive alcohol consumption does. But anyways, do you agree or disagree? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you've got ideas for the future, you can also leave them down in the comments below, and we'll see if we can make this a more regular thing. But anyways, I'm gonna go and finish my cigar because it's kind of hard to talk and smoke and, you know, try not to overdo it. But I hope you found the video interesting. Thank you, of course, for watching, and I'll catch you in my next one.